Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family. Hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the deadly plane crash that happened here in Washington, D.C. Then I'm going to be talking about D.C. politics. And then I'm going to talk about me, still learning about myself at this big age. But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. You know, life is really crazy right now. There's a lot of things going on out there in the world that, I don't know. It's got people in flux. There's a lot of instability happening here in America, which is affecting those abroad in other countries. There's crazy rhetoric on social media. You know, if you believe in revelations, you got ice storms in Florida, you got fires in California, then mudslides. You know, you got hurricanes, tornadoes, windstorms, winter storms, super hot summers. Is this the end of days? I don't believe it to be the case. I believe that the planet is just getting older because I'm getting older. And that's what happens with living things. We get older and hopefully, we will live a full and healthy life. Unfortunately, sometimes that's not always the case. And sometimes these things happen because of accidents. Sometimes it's accidents, sometimes it's on purpose. In this particular instance, I'm talking about the plane crash. And it happened last night. I'm filming this on Thursday, January 30th. It'll be released Friday, January 31st. So this all happened Wednesday, January 29th. And as I'm getting the information, as I'm getting the news, I'm on social media and the conspiracy theorists are already out. They're already out. And I'm not saying that it might not be nefarious. I'm not saying that at all. That could absolutely be the case. But to immediately jump to that. So I kind of get it, right? It's easier to jump to conspiracies because even as crazy as a conspiracy can be, you can at least give an explanation to something. And the thing that we hate as human beings is not to be able to not explain something, to not be able to understand something. We have to give everything meaning. And we don't know what happened. And I just wish people wouldn't rush to judgment because see, this is what happens. In an effort for a person to be the hero of their own story, very rarely will people admit that they're wrong. Where am I going with this? So if you immediately jump to it's a conspiracy theory and you convince yourself before having any facts that it is absolutely a conspiracy theory, or conversely, not a conspiracy theory, like either one, right? If you absolutely convince yourself before all the facts have been collected, before all the facts have been explained, before you've been given all the facts, if you come up with a conclusion, the only thing that you're going to search for is a thing that backs up what makes you right. And that's what people do. People will scour the internet and Google search in debates and arguments. I've had them in my own group chats, in debates and arguments, getting things that they deem as facts to back up their argument. And it's either alternative facts or they've skewed the facts. Statistics can also lie to you, right? To make sure that they come off as right, as opposed to taking a step back, saying, hey, I might be wrong on this situation, and just waiting. Just waiting. This is what I know. The most important thing that happened on Wednesday, the thing that should be the absolute top focus is that people lost their lives. A lot of people lost their lives. That's the main focus. We will find out the facts of what happened somewhere down the road. But until then, stop trying to be Inspector Gadget. Stop trying to be Sherlock Holmes. You're not Matlock. You're not Perry Mason. I know I'm aging myself, but you know what I'm saying. You're not Bruce Wayne. You're not the detective. Just wait to get the facts. And if you jump on a conclusion before getting the facts, have an open mind to be like, you know what? I was wrong on that one. Just maybe. You don't always have to be the hero of your own story. Sometimes, if you're not careful, you are the villain of your own story. And nobody wants to be that. And I get it. Some of the people that I'm talking to are just like, well, the president is coming out and saying it. Absolutely. The president said it last night, this morning, this afternoon. He's blamed it on everything. He's saying it's nefarious. He's saying that it's DEI. He's saying that it's all Biden and Obama's fault. I don't know, after 9 years of Barack Obama no longer being in office, how things are still his fault. They'll blame the black man for anything, won't they? They will blame the black man for anything. That man has not been in office since 2016. 2017. That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago. And in his last year, they did everything that they could to stop him from even getting stuff done. Remember when he nominated a guy to be on the Supreme Court and Mitch McConnell and them blocked it because they said the next president should decide it? This man, the current president, is still blaming a man from 8 years ago. I swear, black people in this country, we get blamed for everything. DEI, what's DEI got to do with it? I had an interesting back and forth with a YouTube commenter the other day. If you want to check out the conversation, by all means, go check it out. Was I pompous? Was I condescending? Of course I was. I mean, this is who I am. I'm going to be that, especially when you come to me with dumb arguments. So me and my sister had posted some clips about DEI. You know, we explained it in the last episode what DEI truly is. And this person immediately went to, it shouldn't be based on color, which last I checked, it's not based on color. Race. He said race. Okay. It's not solely based on race. All right. There's race, gender, sexuality, religion, all these types of things. What it's meant to do is make sure that you're not discriminated because of these things. And this person played their hand because they immediately went to race. And I was like, see, there you go. Everybody equates DEI with race. It's diversity. That means things that are groups of people that have been historically marginalized. Diversity, equity, trying to make things equal, and inclusion, bringing things in. That's what it is. But you have these idiots out here that are talking about DEI, which is basically just another way of saying it's somehow reverse racism, which is absurd in every aspect. The people that are still in power are still white men. Still white men. And it's so funny. The president of the United States, white man, surrounded by white people, majority white men. This happened under his watch, and he's still blaming other people for things that's happening under his watch. And you could say to yourself, well, he's only been in office for like 8 days. How's this his fault? I'm going to go into all of his politics later. I know. I had told you guys I was going to stop talking about politics, and I want to. I really want to, but I got an odd feeling that I'm not going to be able to, because the current administration in its short tenure right now has done some head scratching things that I got to address. I can't not address it. A lot of y'all are wanting to hear what me and my sister or my guests have to say about these particular issues. That's the reason why you tune in. Why am I going to deny that? Well, one of the reasons why I deny that is for my own mental health and well-being, right? Like This takes a toll on me preparing, getting all the facts and then giving it to you guys. And it becomes disheartening because I don't understand how people don't realize that they voted for their detriment. Like, I don't understand how they don't see the forest for the trees, but also I do understand when people have blinders on, it's not about what you could do for them. It's about taking away from other people. For instance, remote work. There's so many people that are up in arms and that are patting the current administration about remote work. And I'm going to get into more detail about that later, about eliminating remote work for federal workers, saying that and their main complaint is I have to go to work every day. Why shouldn't they? Uh, because their job doesn't require them to. I'm sorry. If you're a plumber, I guess you could remote work as a plumber. I guess you could. I don't think you can remote work if you work with cattle. I think you kind of have to be there. Like, people choose different avenues in life that afford them different things, right? Like, you may have a job where you do your 9 to 5 and you get to go home and you don't have to worry about work. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a manager as a government contractor, and because they're a salaried employee, they're required to basically just get stuff done. That means that sometimes they pull 16, 17-hour days for the same job. And if I'm going to be doing something for 16, 17 hours a day, I would like to do it in the comforts of my own home. Personally, if I'm going to be discomforted by having to work that hard, at least make my surroundings comfortable. But it was interesting because I saw something a couple of months back about this psychology professor does this experiment the first day of psychology class. And he tells the entire class, hey, everybody, we're going to do a group vote. We have to come to a majority consensus. Everybody has to agree to this before we enact what you guys are voting for. The professor says, okay, I can give everybody a B right now, no matter what happens for the rest of the semester. First day of class, professor says, everybody can get a B right now. If you all vote on it unanimously, everybody gets a B right now. So the class, every year, the class votes, right? It never comes back unanimous for various reasons. Sometimes people feel like they can get a better grade than a B, and that they want to take the chance to get a better grade than a B. Okay, that's reasonable. That would be a reason to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take this free B. I'm going to work for this hard A. There's nobility and honor in that. Personally, I would take that B because that just eliminates a whole class that I got to focus on and I could do some other stuff. Interestingly enough, there's another answer to why people would vote not to get a B in the class. And it's because they don't believe that other people who don't work as hard as them should deserve to get a B. Never mind the fact that you could choose to work as hard as or not hard as you want. Everybody gets the same thing. But they feel like, no, everybody doesn't deserve the same thing. So I'm not going to vote for that. Voting against their best interest because maybe they're a C student. And that's what's happening in a lot of these cases. A lot of C students or a lot of people that are poor, rural, disenfranchised economically, even if they are white, they're disenfranchised economically due to where they live, cycle of poverty. I always talk about these type of things, right? They vote against their best interests for things that could actually help them for the mere fact, I don't want them to have it. So a bunch of C students in this psychology class is voting against their best interests, an opportunity to get a B because they don't feel like other people should have a B. And that's the human. Not saying that's all of us, because I could care less what another person has. I'm not built like that. But once again, I'm also a secure enough person, and we'll get into that in the third segment, a secure enough person in myself that I'm just happy being me. I don't really want to be anybody else. Would I like to have certain characteristics of other people's lifestyles? Sure. I wouldn't mind being rich, but I also know I don't need to be rich because I'm a jerk now. Could you imagine me with a little bit more money? What about a lot bit more money? Right? Can you imagine me? I don't want to see that side of me. Just let's keep me humble and poor. Let's just keep me humble and poor. But seriously, like people will vote against the best interest. And we're living in a society where a bunch of C, D, and sometimes failing students are determining what everybody else gets. But what was my main point? My main point is this: don't worry about being the hero of your own story. Try to just get to the right information and be the best person in your own story. And when you get a piece of information, like this plane crash that happened in DC, wait for all the facts before you make a decision. Guess what? Before you make a decision on anything, wait for all the facts. Vet your sources. And don't look for things to just back up your argument. Matter of fact, look up things that go against your argument and examine it truthfully and with open mind. Examine it because you could be wrong. More than likely, you C and D and F students are absolutely wrong. Sometimes you B and A students are wrong too. It's a little less likely, but C, D, and F students almost always wrong. Almost always. So take a step back, observe everything, and then make a determination. And why am I harping in on that right now? Well, in this next segment, unfortunately, because I have to, because it's in the news and it's affected so many people's lives, I've got to talk about DC politics. And I'm going to get into that next. What are we doing here? What is our government? What is this current administration doing? It's throwing things into absolute chaos. This is what happens when rich men who are so far removed from real life are determining what ordinary, average, everyday citizens are going to have to decide upon. When's the last time Donald J. Trump or Elon Musk went to the grocery store? They talk about the price of groceries, but they're not fretting because they're not going to the grocery store. They have no conceptual idea of what the cost of groceries are. And inflation is real. You know how I know it's real? Because I'm affected by it. You know how I'm affected by it? Because the cost of Gatorade Zero. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Bruce, how the hell is that affecting you? Because at my local grocery store that's only a block away, all summer long for the last couple of, not summer long, it kind of ended during the summer, the beginning of the fall. But from the summer to last year, through a couple of years, I could get my Gatorade Zero in bulk. I could get the 32 ounces. I could get 5 for $5. That's a hell of a deal. Then it went from $5 to 4 for $5. All right, it's an extra 25 cent a bottle, but 25 cent ain't no thing. I'll swing that. Now I'm going in there and it's 3 for $5. I'm like, what the hell? Why is Gatorade going up? Inflation is real. Eggs are more expensive. I did a whole segment on inflation. I'm not an economy guy. I'm not an economic major, right? And even people that I know are economic majors, they still can't really explain it. Not really. This is out of my depth. I'm not going to make a clear determination of what's causing this because I wouldn't be able to. Maybe I might be able to understand it if somebody like really, really broke it down to me, but like maybe probably not. Probably because it's complicated, right? This is complicated. And the current administration is trying to make things simplistic when it's not really simplistic. And what do I mean by this? They are determined to reduce the size of government. Now, in theory, I'm not absolutely opposed to this. Because I live here in the DC area, I know a lot of people that have worked or work in government. And there's more than a few useless people that you could get rid of. You can't do wholesale getting rid of. And there might be an argument to be made of making it slightly more easy or easier, slightly easier to be able to terminate employment of a federal employee. Because let me explain to you, it is a very difficult process. Once you're in, it's almost like the mafia. Once you get in, you in for life, baby, unless you want to leave, but they can't really get rid of you, right? Not really. You have to do something egregious to really be terminated. So, from that standpoint, I'm not opposed to making government somewhat smaller in certain situations. But this wholesale, we're going to make government smaller, it's not practical. And the way they're going about it really isn't practical. So, first, they do a hiring freeze, right? They're saying we're not going to hire any new employees to the federal government. And you might say, well, that's not that big of a deal. You already say the government is bloated, Bruce, and they got some people that can they can get rid of. There are some positions that are necessary and have to be filled, but not everybody is necessary to have a job. Do you understand what I mean? Like, positions are necessary, but people aren't necessarily necessary. So if people leave certain posts, that post needs to be filled. If you're doing a hiring freeze, that post doesn't get filled. It means that job really doesn't get done, or it gets dumped onto somebody else who already has other duties. This doesn't make government effective. It doesn't make it efficient. It adds to inefficiency, right? So that's the first thing this administration does is they put the hiring freeze. Then they're trying to, and Elon Musk has openly said this, they're trying to get people to quit. One of the ways in which they're trying to get people to quit is by saying we're getting rid of remote work. So they put out some executive orders telling all these different departments, hey, who was ever remote working, you got to bring your ass back to the office. For most people out there, you might be saying to yourself, well, I mean, if that was your job and you got to go to the office, you got to go to the office. And I say, okay, all right, maybe. But here's the thing. And this is for people who don't live in this area, might not understand this. DC, the city of DC, if you're not working in DC, if you're not commuting in DC during the week is almost dead. There aren't, DC doesn't have a lot, the city limits of DC doesn't have like a large population, right? Not super large, right? It's not like it's a million people. I think it's like 600,000, 700,000. I mean, to certain people in North Dakota, they're like, well, that's the entire state. Yeah, but you don't have the GDP of Washington, D.C. Okay, so let's just be real about that. But if people aren't going to work, a lot of these like sandwich shops, a lot of these mom and pop shops, and even some corporations, just like Starbucks, are losing money because they're not commuters that are coming into the city. So the mayor of DC has been trying to get people to come back to work because money has left DC. And from that standpoint, I get it. But you know what? A lot of companies and a lot of the federal government did, because during the pandemic, people weren't coming into offices and people were electing to remote work even when offices were open back up. They realized we don't need all this office space. So they got rid of a lot of it. So now by saying we're going to bring all these people back to the office, there's no space. There's literally no space. So you can't bring everybody back to the office because where the hell are you going to put them? I don't, it seems pretty simple to me. The president was quoted earlier today saying that he has a lot of common sense and it's clear that other people don't have it. And I would say, Mr. President, how is that common sense? How are people going to fit in offices when there's more people than office space? Common sense says that's not going to work. Okay. Also, another issue with them issuing this executive order to bring everybody back to work, it's borderline illegal. And this is the reason why. There are unions of workers that are federal workers. These unions negotiate deals in which their workers can remote work. It's a part of a negotiated deal, which means that just because you write an executive order does not mean that that erases that deal that was negotiated by the unions. That's the reason why there's already been lawsuits. So I feel like the current administration doesn't exactly know what an executive order is. I think that this current administration thinks it's like a king's decree, whereas I say this is now to be, and that's not what it is. There was even some argument that the new press secretary said, well, he's the executive of the executive branch, meaning that he is the boss and he can tell them exactly what he wants them to do when he's telling them to come back to the office. No, he can't. Not if a deal has been negotiated by a union to have remote work. It's the reason why he's getting sued. Okay. It's the reason why the administration is getting sued. And I know he just went on air the other day and he said February 6th, either you come back to work or you're fired. Can't do that. There are laws that's literally breaking the law. There are federal workers' right laws that you can't do that. It's lawsuits. So a lot of this is like bluster. It is telling the base, telling those C plus students, D plus students, right? The ones who feel like, well, it's not fair that they get to work from home. So they shouldn't be allowed to work from home. It's catering to them. And he's just saying it. And they're like, yeah, man, right on. That's what I'm talking about. Even though it's not going to go down the way he's talking like it's going to go down. It's not going to go down that way. And you think that people are just going to give up their government job. That government job is solid. Good bennies, you know what I'm saying? Decent salary, and you get to work from home. That's good living. But they earned it. That's good living. But people wait for months. There's a lot of people that were waiting for clearances for months, and then they did this hiring freeze that got called back saying, your position is no longer being hired for. We're sorry. They got the job 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, waiting for the clearance check. That takes a long time. That is a common occurrence here in the DC area. They've been waiting for this new job to start their new job, and they just have been told, go stay your ass at home and not remotely work at home. Stay your ass at home. This job is not here for you anymore. Throwing things into disarray. All right. What are some other things? So remote work, like good luck with that. If it's been negotiated with, you can't really change it. Also, it's not a large percentage of the federal workforce that works remotely. They're not full-time remotely. There are people that come into offices a couple of days a week, things like that, because they got to get stuff done, but it's not a large percentage of the federal employees. It just isn't statistically. It is not. What are some other ways that they're trying to limit government and scope? These fools the other day put a funding freeze. So what does that mean? What they did is they put a funding freeze on all federal grants and loans, and this very vaguely worded executive order. Because of this was widespread confusion among a lot of the federal agencies, state programs, and nonprofit that are reliant on this federal funding. You had people out there that were Trump supporters crying that their food stamps, it's a different program. I think it's called WIC. I'm not real sure about it. That's my privilege. But I know it as food stamps. I remember when it used to be stamps. Stamps. Like I remember that. And I'm not, because, my family didn't always have money. But anyway, people that voted for Trump crying on social media talking about, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to feed my kids? Like, what are you doing to us? Mind you, they're talking about the price of groceries and inflation is high, but you're going to cut benefits to help those people who need the help the most. And once again, the C, D, F students were the ones that voted for him. So it threw everything into a frenzy. There was a lawsuit. Judge said, hey, look, I'm gonna put a blockade on the stopping or the freezing of the federal funds until we figure out what we're gonna do. Then the administration backtracked and said, all right, well, hold on. We're not gonna do that. You know why they backtracked? The reason why they backtracked is not because the people, the people were complaining. It was kind of, but it wasn't because what they were doing was just mean spirited and evil. You were taking food out of kids' mouths. We're talking kids' mouths, elderly, the poor, and not just food, like government programs to help with homelessness. Anybody that's severely underprivileged in this country, we're about to get their services cut. Okay. And so they retracted, the current administration retract this government funding freeze. And the reason why, sort of the people, but it was really Republican congressmen and senators that were just like, yo, where is this coming from? Which says that the administration is not even working with Congress before they do these executive orders. They're just saying, we're just going to do this and screwing everything up, screwing absolutely everything. Nothing. Their goal is to make government more efficient, definitely making it inefficient. Definitely making it inefficient. So they pull back on it, and people are going to get their benefits, hopefully, but all these executive orders are causing extreme disarray in the country. And people are like, what is going on? Like, we're barely out of January. And it's every day there's another crisis. And I don't know, it's been 4 years, a little over 4 years. I don't remember what it was like that last administration, the early stages of it. I remember shithole countries. I do remember that. But once we got to the pandemic, I remember we was talking about putting bleach in the skin and shining lights on our bodies. Like when this man speaks, it's not. Look, I know I'm not the greatest orator in the world. I have a speech impediment, stumble over my words, I stutter. I have a lisp that I hide pretty well. But when I'm stuttering and when I'm trying to gather my thoughts, that's me trying to hide this lisp that I have. Okay. I understand that even on this platform, where if you're just audio, if you're not even video, right? You're just audio, you're listening to me. There are going to be some times where I'm stumbling over my words, or I say words wrong. I say words wrong all the time. My sister always calls me out on it. I get it. But you listen, and even though my speech is sometimes not the greatest, the thought behind the speech has at least somewhat some intelligence behind it. And you get the point that I'm trying to make, even if I misspeak, right? Joey Beans, Joe Biden had a speech impediment, right? Not everybody is great at just talking and having words come out. But even when you're not great with having words come out, if it's intelligent, you get what the person is saying. Not only does our current president not speak well, which, okay, like I said, I don't speak well. But what he says half the time, 75% of the time, 85% of the time, is completely stupid. It's dumb. But he says it with such confidence that he's got some people fooled that he might be smart. And then he says it a lot. One thing I've learned in life, if you are something, you don't ever have to say it a lot. I always laugh at when guys talk about how they can fight. The true guys that I always knew that could really, really fight never talked about how good of a fighter that they were. They never did. They never said, I got these hands. They never did. The people that are truly, truly funny never talk about how funny they are. I never hear Eddie Murphy saying, I'm the most hilarious person that there's ever been. I've never heard him say it in any interviews or anything like that. Because when you are, you don't have to say it. I once got in an argument with one of my ex-girlfriends. And this was years ago. This had to be like 20 years ago. And we were in an argument, and she kept saying, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. And I was like, you say that a lot. It's almost like you're trying to convince yourself. But I know for a fact, you're not that great of a person. You just have big boobs. No, okay, all right. I shouldn't have said that. It was the truth, though. It was the truth. Okay. I was young. I was in my early 20s. I was just focused on what was in front of me and what it was visceral, what I could see. And then when I finally learned who she was as a person, I just decided to cheat all the time. But she also had big boobs. And so I looked past the fact that she wasn't that great of a person. But the point I'm trying to make is if you are something, you don't have to consistently say that you are that thing. And the president is consistently saying that he's smarter, better, everything than anybody else. Very insecure. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself. Look, I don't know what's going to happen going down the line with this administration, right? This is crazy stuff between the remote work, the plane crash that happened. He's already blaming it on DEI. I said it earlier, blaming it on Obama, eh, blaming everything. All right. I didn't even bring up the fact that the whole situation with Colombia. So let me just give y'all the real raw facts about what happened with Colombia. Because if you listen to conservative or right-wing media, it would come off as Colombia caved. This is what happened. The current administration decided to send people from Colombia that were here in the United States illegally back to Colombia. They sent them in a military plane, cuffed. The Colombian government said, we're not going to accept them. Like this. That's the key words. We're not going to accept them like this. The president says, well, I'm going to raise tariffs on you because that's his big thing, right? He's going to raise tariffs on everybody. 25% tariff. Colombia said, all right, if you do that, 50% tariff. He said, oh, hold up. 50% tariffs on all imported products from Colombia? What is the one thing from Colombia besides cocaine? What is the one thing from Colombia that we consume a lot of here in this country? I don't personally consume it, but a lot of people do. Coffee. People be drinking the hell out of coffee. So there was this back and forth. I don't understand why you won't accept these people. These are your people from your country. The Colombian government said, we have no problem accepting them. Biden had sent numerous planes of Colombians that were here in the United States illegally back to Colombia. But they did it with a little bit more class. And they did it with, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Not only class, but decency, right? They weren't cuffed. They weren't shackled. They weren't on a military plane. And the Colombia president was like, we're not going to accept this as a standard of bringing our people back to us. Do it the way it's always been, or 50% tariffs on all imports coming into your country from Colombia. So the true story is the president caved, said, okay, well, we'll just do it the old way like Biden's been doing it, and you accept them, the Colombians that are here illegally. And the Colombian president said, yeah, sure. No more 50% tariff? No more 25% tariff? No. No? Cool. Then we're good. And that's what actually happened. Colombia didn't cave. Now, I understand in the echo chamber of right-wing conservative news that you may believe that Colombia caved. But if you go through the details, once again, going through the details and checking credible sources, you can find what the true story is. And you know what else makes us look bad to other countries? Because he didn't even have to do that. It's like this thing that's going on with Canada. You don't realize how much we get from Canada. You don't realize how much we get from China. You can't alienate other countries when we're importing their products. And this getting rid of the federal income tax, look, it's a bunch of dumbass ideas that this administration is coming up with that are throwing things in disarray. And we got 4 years of this. And we just gonna have to deal with it and make our way through. But in every instance, I implore you, please, before you make a final decision on what you think something is, wait for all the facts, Examine the facts from credible sources. Hell, even examine facts from non-credible sources that goes against what you believe or even with what you believe, but just get the whole picture. Get facts from what you believe and what you don't believe, vet them, come up with a conclusive conclusion, an idea of what you believe happened, but waiting for all of the information. Please. Because if we don't, this is going to be a long 4 years, probably the longest 4 years in my life. And high school was really long. And all I know is that I don't want to go through 4 more years like the 4 years I had in high school. Please, Lord, no. Because those 4 years were hard and long. But speaking of the past and kind of leading to the future, me at 44 years old, still learning about myself. At this big age, I'm still learning about myself. And I'm going to get into that next. So, an interesting thing happened the other day. Interesting. I'm still trying to get over it. It's literally been a week and I'm still trying to get over it. So, some of you know, some of you don't know that my actual main job is my title is president now. CEO, president. I basically run operations for a fitness company here in the DC area. Um, I also still personal train. I got about 6, 7 clients that I see on a weekly basis that I still train because that's where my true passion is. My true passion has always been in helping people, teaching people. That's where I get my fulfillment from. But in order to pay the bills, I got to be an administrative or a glorified manager, whatever you want to call me. I don't get hung up on that stuff. But nevertheless, I still personal train because that's where my true passion is. And one of my clients actually lives in the same building that I live in. I've actually got 2 clients that live in the same building that I live in. So it's convenient. It's right here. One actually lives on my floor. Good dude, trying to better himself. And I'm all for that. I've been doing this for 20 years, personal training, 20 years. Never once in 20 years have I missed a session that wasn't given notice that I was going to miss. What I mean by that is, have I missed sessions because I'm sick? Yes, but the person knew I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to make it. Like it was a cancellation, but it was a advance notice cancellation. I've never canceled or no showed a session. It's never happened until last week. Last week was the first time that this ever happened to me. And I know why it happened. My internet was down. I needed to do work, so I needed the internet. So I had to go downstairs to my business center, and my whole day was out of whack, right? Like I'm running through a daze the entire day because I got a couple of different projects to get through because it's the beginning of the year. I'm also planning for, shows that I'm doing here. And then, I've got other personal stuff that I've got to use the internet for. So I'm just in a daze. Okay. And I missed a session. He was actually leaving town this week. And I was coming into the building. I had just gone grocery shopping and I saw him and I was like, hey, man, I thought you left. He was like, hey, my flight is tomorrow. And he said, what happened to you yesterday? I said, what do you mean? He was like, you missed our session. Y'all, I had completely 100% forgot about it. And it's the same time every week, the same days. Nothing changes, right? It's a set time every week, twice a week, the same days, the same time. He lives in a building, lives on my floor. I completely forgot. And it bothered me to no end. I apologized profusely. It was like, oh, these things happen. I'm like, no, it does not happen. This does not happen to me. I don't do this. This is unprofessional. I do not do stuff like this. Bothered me a great deal. So that happened on Thursday. He told me on Friday. On Sunday, me and my sister are filming the show. And I tell her the story of what happened. And she is like, I bet you are still beating yourself up over this, aren't you? I was like, as I'm telling you the story, I'm beating myself up right now. It's like, Bruce, these things happen. First time in 20 years, that's one hell of a run. To me, it doesn't matter, right? I made a mistake. And she was like, yeah, this sounds about right. This is who you are. I was like, what the hell does that mean? She says, okay, I'm gonna give you a prime example, a recent example, and I'm gonna give it to y'all out here what the recent example was. So, as you all know, my sister came up for Thanksgiving and we ordered Cracker Barrel for Thanksgiving, right? So I'm taking the train up to where my mom lives. My brother and sister are going to pick me up from the train station. I get there around 4:30. We're not supposed to pick up the food from Cracker Barrel until 6:30, maybe even 7 o'clock. Like it's later that evening, right? My sister says, because she's the one driving, hey, we're already close to Cracker Barrel from here. Let's just go. I'm in the back seat, or actually, I'm in the front seat. I'm sitting right next to her. No, we can't go. We can't go. Our time for pickup is at 7 o'clock. We can't go right now. My sister says, it's not going to be a big deal. Or do you think that they're only preparing the food and it's going to come out to us right at 7? Like the food is probably already done. And we're just going to go and see it. I was like, all right, if you want to waste gas and go and see, you can waste gas and go and see. But I know that we're not going to be able to get the food. I don't know why you're doing it. And the whole ride is just like, well, okay, if you want to try it, like, we can go ahead and do this. But it says 7 o'clock. That's what time we're supposed to be there. It's 7 o'clock. We get there at 5 o'clock. We leave there at 5:20 with the food. And my sister said, you remember that? And I was like, yeah, I remember that. She was like, you don't really like your plans to be detoured. It throws you off. And if that throws you off, you get agitated. And if it's your fault that it throws you off, you get upset at yourself. You've been this way since we were kids. And I said, really? Really? She's like, yeah, you've always been this way. And I had no idea that I was this way. She's already told me that I'm meticulous. And when she pointed it out to me, yeah, she's absolutely right. I am very regimented and meticulous. I'll give you another example of how I am these things. And y'all are going to think that I'm crazy. And I might be. So it is January 30th. I'm filming this show for release for January 31st. I had work I had to do today as well, right? And I still had to do post-production on the show. So I had work and meetings up until about 11. And today is just my cardio day when I work out. So it's just going to take 45 minutes. So this is how I planned my day. All right, I'm gonna work until 11 out of my meetings. I'm gonna sit down and relax for 30 minutes before I go to the gym and work out for 45 minutes. That'll be done at 12:15. I'm gonna come upstairs at 12:15 and I'm gonna take a shower, shave and all that stuff, kind of shave, and I'll be done at 1. By that time, I can take a lunch break, right? Then I'll be done by 1:30. From 1:30 to 2:30, I'll do a little bit more work and make sure that the outline for the show is done and prepared and I have all my notes. 2:30, from 3:30, I will sit down and relax to gather my thoughts and bring down my heart rate. Okay. From 4:30 to 6, I'll record the show. I'll take a brief break from 6 to 6:30. At 7, I've got another meeting. I'll be done by 8. And from 8 to 8:30, I will eat, take a quick break. And from 9 to 11, I will start on the post-production, go to sleep, wake up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And from 8 to 10, before I have another meeting, we'll do more post-production. Then after the meeting, I'll finish up a little bit of work, go back to the gym at 11:30. From 11:30 to 1, I will work out, come back up here, have lunch, finish any work that I have to do. Then I have to go to the grocery store at by 3, then come back home by 4. But this is my life every single day. And to me, that's normal. To you guys listening, you might think I'm crazy because I did that. I showed somebody that walkthrough of what my daily schedule is like, because that is on a daily basis. I program things out almost to the minute. I'm always running 15 minutes behind. You would think that I not 15 minutes behind to like appointments, but it's like I'm always like 15 minutes behind of my chill time, right? I'm almost 15 minutes off of my chill time, or when it's time to go to bed, or like if it's time to go out somewhere, like to go out, but never something important like a meeting or something. I'm never late. But I do that on a daily basis. My sister is right. I'm very meticulous. So I started thinking, why am I meticulous? What is the cause of this? So, learning about myself, I realized that being meticulous can stem from a variety of personal, psychological, and environmental factors. All right, let's break them down. Personality traits. Am I a perfectionist? Do I have a strong desire to achieve perfection in everything that I do, leading me to pay close attention to details? Hell no. I'm not a perfectionist. If I was a perfectionist, anytime I put something together, I wouldn't stop until it was completely right. I got stuff in here, whether it's dressers, whether it's my fireplace, lights, no matter if it requires me putting it together, odds are it's going to be wrong. There are so many holes in my walls from drills because I don't ever do it right. So I'm not a perfectionist. So I can get rid of that, right? Do I have high standards? Do I hold myself to an exceptionally high standard, which drives me to be precise? Yes, I do hold myself to a high standard. I hold myself to a higher standard than I hold anybody else to, which is typically the other way around. Typically, people hold other people to a higher standard than they actually hold themselves to. I know people aren't going to take the things that I think are as important as importantly as I do. I feel like it is important to respect another person's time, space, all that. Being courteous, like that's just me. I will go out of my way to make sure that I'm not intruding on people. So when I do work, I know people aren't going to do it exactly like me, but when I do work, I put in the effort to make sure that it's at a very high standard. I don't personally think that there's anything wrong with it. I think that's a good quality, actually. All right, some other stuff environmental, my upbringing, parental influence. I would say that neither my mom or dad are really that meticulous. They particular, but not meticulous. So, and I don't, and those two things aren't the same. So, no, doesn't have anything to do with parental influence or cultural factors, right? Some cultures emphasize precision, discipline, and thoroughness, which can shape your behavior. No, it's not really cultural. Role models, did I have any mentors, teachers, or family members who were meticulous? Not that I can really think of. So, my upbringing environment has really so far from these examples, nothing to really do with it. Professional and academic training. Do I have a job that or did I study something that demanded precision, like engineering, science, accounting, or art? No, like mine was history. So, well, education, but that's still not precision because that's teaching. Training. Certain professions or educational paths train individuals to be detail oriented, which can carry over into their other areas of life. Now, my profession, specifically managing and when I actually train people, does take precision. I have a certain amount of time to get a certain amount of things done. So when I plan that out, I plan it out to the second, and I'm almost never off. So my job is detail oriented. But when I first started doing this, I was very detail oriented. And now, as I think about it, every job that I've ever had, it's always been about taking care of the details and getting the work done. It's always been about that. So I can't say that school or my profession trained me to be this way. I just kind of already been that way. But now let's get to the nitty gritty of why I might be this way. Psychological factors, anxiety or fear of failure. A fear of making mistakes or being judged harshly might lead you to double check and scrutinize your work. There it is. There it is. There it is right there. We already know that if you listen to the show, I have generalized severe anxiety. Like I have anxiety every day. And of course, I have a fear of failing. It's not an overwhelming fear of failing. I think fear of failing also is what pushes me to strive to be somewhat, somewhat successful. But yes, anxiety and fear of failure, definitely, definitely. I've always been afraid of embarrassing myself going all the way back to playing pee-wee basketball. I would get so upset at myself for making a mistake in front of all these people when I knew better than to make that mistake. Yes, that has something to do with it. So that's the first psychological factor, the reason why Bruce is so meticulous. And for this particular rest of the segment, I will be referring to myself in the third person because I'm going to talk about it like it's a different person because I don't want to deal with these stuff. Okay. Another psychological factor is control. Being meticulous can be a way to maintain a sense of control in certain or chaotic situations. I would say that I'm not a controlling person as far as controlling other people. I'm not. I am controlling when it comes to me. So I guess in some regard, if you're dealing with me, somehow I'm controlling. Let me give you an example. I never impose the things that I want on other people, at least not anymore. Maybe when I was a little kid, I was extremely selfish, but living with my ex-wife for so long and us just having different personalities, I knew that I couldn't be imposing because she didn't deal with confrontation. She was flight, right? Not fight. She was flight. I'm fight. She's flight. So I knew, okay, if I ever want to make things like kosher with us, so there's no confusion, I can never be confrontational or imposing with her. So I had to make sure at all times she's extremely comfortable, which some of you guys might say, well, damn, Bruce, you're really sacrificing a lot of who you are for this person, but that's what you do for love, right? And I didn't have to sacrifice that much. It just tempered my personality down a little bit to make it more palatable. She still complained that I was imposing and that because I like things a certain way, even though I didn't say it, she felt a need to make sure it was that way. And I was like, well, how are you going to put that on me? If I didn't say that I like it a certain way, then I'm not telling you that you got to do it a certain way. Well, I just knew you liked it this way. I was like, that's great that you pay attention to the, to the things that I like. But also, that doesn't mean I didn't say to do these things. So, yes, me controlling my life can put people in situations where they kind of feel controlled because I'm imposing my stuff, even if it's not me saying it, I'm imposing my control over myself on other people. If I say to myself, hey, I don't want to eat bad food because I'm watching my nutrition right now because I have a physical goal that I want to get to. And I'm dating somebody who's a significant other. And she's like, I want to go out to eat. And I'm like, that's fine. We can go out to eat. And then I'm sitting up there eating this bland food. And we're at this nice restaurant. And they're like, well, I can't even enjoy myself because it seems like you're not enjoying yourself. And it's like, well I'm here with you. But I told you, like, I don't want to eat this right now. Well, I want to be able to enjoy this. Well, then enjoy it. Well, you're not enjoying it. I don't, I, I'm confused. So I get it now. I'm not saying that one's right and one's wrong. I'm just saying that at this big age, I'm still learning about myself. And it's good. I mean, this is good to have this type of awareness. Another psychological factor, before I wrap this up, another psychological factor is OCD tendencies. While not everybody who is meticulous has OCD, some people with obsessive compulsive tendencies may exhibit meticulous behavior as part of their need for order and precision. One thing that I am OCD about is constantly washing my hands. I touch something, I wash my hands because, I touch my face, I bite my fingernails, I do all that type of stuff, right? I don't want to empty the trash and then put trash juice on my lips. That's gross. I might as well just immediately die. I just need to die. If trash juice gets on my lips, kill me now. So I consistently wash my hands. So I invest in a lot of hand soap and lotion because it means that my hands are dry more than I want them to be. So OCD. I don't know if I have OCD, but I have some compulsions. Absolutely. So there's other things like past experiences, analytical thinking, you might naturally have a cognitive style that favors analyst problem solving and attention to detail. I do. That is something that I do have, which is weird, right? I was really, really talented in math, but not science. I was really, really talented in history, but not English, right? So I don't know how my brain works. It's just I'm also artsy, but I'm also analytical. It's a weird combination. I got y'all listen to me. I'm all over the place with these things. But it's funny. Uh, it's funny. At 44 years old, I'm still learning about myself. And ultimately I came to the conclusion over the last couple of days is I need to lighten up on myself. I need to stop being so hard on myself. That's number one. I need to give myself as much grace as I give to other people. If people say that they're sorry and ask for forgiveness, there's a sensation that goes over my body. I just immediately forgive them. I need to be able to do that for myself. I made a mistake. I apologize. That person is okay with me. They're not going to burn me at the stake. It's all right. And that's cool that at 44, almost 45, I'm still learning myself. I'm still open to learn about myself. I'm still open to having people be critical of me and not take offense to it, hear what they're saying and learn from it. I think that's kind of dope. I think that's growth. I like that about myself. I like me personally. And just to be real honest with y'all, I like who I am. I try to be a better person tomorrow than I was today, but that's every day. And yeah, no, cool. So I'm still learning about myself. But when I came to this conclusion over the last couple of years, last couple of days, I thought to myself, maybe I owe my ex-wife an apology. Maybe what she was saying to me was exactly the conclusion that I came to, that even though I didn't say or enforce or even hint that I like things a certain way, because I did things a certain way, she realized that I liked those things a certain way and she lived accordingly. And because of that, she felt kind of restrained. I thought about that. I thought about reaching out to her and saying, you know what? I get what you were saying now. You might be right. Then I came to my damn senses. Ain't no way in hell that I'm ever going to say something like that to her. Because fact of the matter is, if she was bothered, she could have said something. It's not like you can't come to me and talk to me. She did it before. And if she thought that she couldn't talk to me, she would write me a letter. And then I would read the letter and I'd be like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about it like that. Okay, let's fix this issue. No, I'm not going to apologize to her. I may have had some flaws, but it was all her fault. It wasn't mine. That's what the priest said. That's what the priest said. It was her fault, not mine. And I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. So came to my damn senses, realizing that, yeah, I still got some growing to do, but also realized, no way in hell I'm apologizing to my ex-wife. No way in hell. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to implore you again to take the lesson that I learned about myself at 44, realizing I still don't have life figured out and that I'm still learning about myself. I'm still receiving information and then I'm open to receiving it to come to a better conclusion. Shouldn't we do that as well for information that we receive, whether it's politics or news or celebrity gossip or family members and conversation, just whatever? Take a step back, try to examine the whole picture, try to get all the facts, weigh it, examine it, and then come to your conclusion. And if we can start to do that, we can start to get to this better society that we're aiming for. I don't know. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm asking you, would you like to? And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Whew. That was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspectives.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you're really feeling generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace. Freedom.